Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Jay, and today I wanted to revisit She-Hulk Attorney at Law. In my first video, I mostly focused on the first few episodes and She-Hulk herself, but now that more episodes have come out, I have more thoughts on the show and how it portrays the characters, and I do think this show dropped the ball in a lot of ways. Before I get started, I want to address something from my first video, where I said that the two Hulk movies were not associated with the MCU. It turns out the one from 2008 is an MCU movie. I know it was made by Universal and they own the rights to a solo Hulk movie, but despite that, it is still considered part of the MCU, and there's even an after-credits scene where Tony talks to General Ross, so I'm not above admitting when I'm wrong. So with that out of the way, let's get to the video. I think She-Hulk, her rogues gallery, and her stories could have lent itself well to a show like this. However, I'm not seeing that in this show. It's just pretty mediocre in my opinion. The action, the drama, the comedy, everything just falls flat, which sucks because they had a lot of material to work with. But like I said in my first video, I'm not sure anybody working on this show actually read the comics. Like, I found this article with a quote from the actress playing Titania, where she says Titania's greatest strength is being annoying. She then goes on to say that she's very unself-conscious, which is basically the exact opposite of her portrayal in the comics. Seriously, did they read these comics? If I'm being honest, I find basically all of the characters annoying, so Titania isn't special. Titania is actually pretty sympathetic in the comics. Her real name is Mary McFerrin, and she was born prematurely. She grew up constantly being bullied for her body type, being smaller and more petite than everybody else. Her friend Marcia notices that she has the same hair color as Spider-Woman, so Mary tells her she is Spider-Woman and makes up a backstory for herself. It was supposed to be all in good fun, but then Marcia tells other people about it, causing her to become instantly popular, and she starts getting invited to parties. But because of comic book shenanigans, the city ends up being torn away to another planet. Long story there, but the real Spider-Woman ends up showing up, which ends up outing Mary as a liar. So the bullies shun them again and force them out of the party. It kind of was a stretch to assume she was a superhero just because she has the same hair color as one, but she never meant for this to happen, and her going along with it came from a place of wanting to be accepted after years of rejection. But the two of them end up taking an offer by Dr. Doom, who promises to give them power, and turns them into Titania and Volcana respectively. But due to all the years of bullying, Titania now has a complex. Now as a superpowered being, she's desperate to prove herself, and is extremely self-conscious. She's constantly training to improve herself, and she has a lot of interesting things going on, like her romance with the Absorbing Man, or surviving cancer, but here they just write her off as annoying. In the show, they didn't even bother introducing her. What's her backstory? What's her motivation? What drives her as a character? Because it kind of seems like she's just here to bother Jen, which isn't very compelling. Basically, they take these interesting characters from the comics and make them pretty superficial, and it ends up being boring. These characters really deserve better, and at least Titania wasn't as shafted as the Wrecking Crew. I honestly thought this was just a reference at first, but apparently this is supposed to actually be the Wrecking Crew. That's embarrassing. Also, they whitewashed Thunderball. I'm kind of surprised considering the fact that this show seems to be touting progressive values, only for them to whitewash one of their characters. Weird. Jen will occasionally break the fourth wall, which is something she would do in the comics, but here it's not as charming or fun like it was there. In the comics, she would often address the audience and even the writers, like if she didn't like what was going on, or she would use it to her advantage, like getting dressed between the panels or using the panels to walk across town really quickly. But they don't do much with it here. They don't use it for anything clever. She mostly just addresses the audience and gives a little exposition, or talks about who's cameoing in this episode. I just think it could have been implemented better. As for the cameos, well, I hope they treat Daredevil better than Wong. I'm not sure what they were doing with Wong, honestly. It kind of feels like they just have ideas and then they go with it without thinking about how this fits into the greater MCU. Like, Wong takes Abomination so he can use him for this test to become Sorcerer Supreme, but Doctor Strange didn't have to do that, so why does Wong? And Wong doesn't seem to understand what prison is, for some reason. And then some rando stole a sling ring from him, so Wong decides to sue him? Why would he think to sue him? Why not just report a theft, or take care of it himself? This guy is clearly an amateur, he can't just get the sling ring back. There's also the fact that he was endangering people by sending them to demon worlds. It just seems like there are stronger cases to make against Donnie Blaze. They said they didn't know how to write courtroom scenes, and it shows. Couldn't they have consulted with actual lawyers? It's not like Disney doesn't have those. Like, the main plot in episode 5 is that Titania trademarked the She-Hulk name and started a new cosmetic brand so she can get the upper hand on Jen. It would have been fun if they had referenced the comic here, because in the comics there were actually two Titanias who were operating independently from each other, so maybe Titania knows to trademark the name first because she got into legal trouble with the first Titania. Since Mary McFerrin is actually the second Titania, Titania, but she became more well known. But I'm not sure if they actually know there were two Titanias. Either way, when did Titania even have the time to trademark the name and then sue Jen over it? Not to mention make a whole cosmetic line, after she was already in legal trouble, and then broke through the wall of the courtroom and almost killed people. Shouldn't she be facing repercussions for that? But oddly enough, that's never addressed, when it really should be. Plus, I'm not a lawyer, but she has the legal trademark. How'd this even get to trial? Jen may use the name She-Hulk in her personal life, but that doesn't change the fact that she doesn't own the trademark. Would that actually hold up in court? I know we're not actually supposed to think about anything when watching the show, but the material we're given just isn't entertaining enough for me to suspend my disbelief. Jen's not a very compelling protagonist. She tends to cause her own problems, and then just sits around complaining about everything. Obviously, the writing for the court scenes is pretty weak, so she's not a great lawyer. She didn't even bother prepping any witnesses for the trial with Wong, among other basic mistakes. And then she's not a very good vigilante either. She just lets the wrecking crew get away, claiming the police will never catch them, so now they're still free to wreak havoc just because she's not personally worried because she has superpowers, but they're still on the loose to hurt other people. She didn't do anything to sabotage their escape vehicle despite the fact that she had ample opportunity to. She doesn't even bother getting their license plate. I'm sure if she had bothered, they could have been caught by the police. I mean, how can she judge the police for not catching them when she didn't either? How many people has she even helped as a vigilante? She saved the jurors when Titania attacked, but only after Nikki prodded her to get into action. And then she ignores Wong's calls because she's on a date. And I understand she was busy, but when has she actually chosen to jump in to help somebody else of her own volition? Oddly enough, Wong takes care of everything himself when he uses the sling ring like a funnel, so I'm not sure why he bothered her, but my point still stands. She doesn't exactly come off as heroic or noble. Hopefully that's something that will be addressed in the show. Like in previews, they have Daredevil give her a pep talk about how she can do good as a lawyer and a vigilante, and I hope that's the case, but it kind of feels like this show isn't really gearing up to teach her a lesson, but instead she's not the one that really needs to change, it's that society is keeping her down. How much has Jen actually grown in these last 5 episodes as a character? They just keep having people heap validation on her. They made Jen so sad and kind of a joke, which is really upsetting for someone who has been waiting so long to see her in the MCU. Honestly, I could go on and on about all the problems I have with this show. I just wish the writing had gone in a different direction, because they're just not doing Jen or the rest of these characters justice, and this show doesn't do anything as well as they do in the comics. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? I know there are fans of this show, and they're entitled to their opinion, so let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to our channel's members: Titania, Tyrant Carnivore, Adam K, Shiny Orc Boy, The Rabbit Mancer, General Bolivar, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, Gabby Hime, Sandy Martin, Verdant Range, Butcher7 Actual, Dash Hound, JVR, Hussyman42, Nixel, Eric Griffin, Phil C, Taylor Ramirez, Caleb Nelson, Bandito Bane, Hunter Rose, Dakari the Professor, Equestron, Owen Wildish, and Norman Sweet Cream. Thank you all so much for your support. If you'd like to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. We also have a buy me coffee if you want to support us that way. But if you enjoyed this video, you can leave a like and subscribe to the channel, which helps us out a lot too, and it's free. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.